Hello, it is April 28th, and it is 3 o'clock Central Time here in beautiful Conway, Arkansas. A few little thunderstorms earlier today, but turned out to be a pretty nice day here. So, for the second day of the launch of the April 27th, which was yesterday at 10:30 Eastern Time, was the launch of the new second round, if you will, of the $310 billion Paycheck Protection Program, and which apparently was a disaster. So what happened is you have 4,000 lenders out there, 4 to 5,000 lenders across the country, and what they're doing is they were trying to enter in their information into the SBA E-Trans site, and bottom line is it was just crashing. It wasn't totally down, but what was happening is they purposely don't know how they did this, but they throttled down how many apps that you can push in. We had heard PayPal was able to put in 200 an hour. I've heard as many as we've got banks at 2,500 of apps lined up ready to get in, and only they got 30 to 100 in yesterday. So what banks and lenders are doing today is looking at about actually working round the clock and then entering into the site to get as many in as possible to gobble up the 310,000. So I want to jump right into some just a quick article about that. So as I always do, is this one happens to be a payments.com. It's something that I go to see, and all the reports here around the country, it's been a disaster. So what's called the American Banking Association, all the member banks across are deeply frustrated at the inability to access SBA Gov's E-Trans system, which is basically what the system is. And they are asking, here's the CEO, Rob Nichols, of the CEO of the American Banking Association. So as usual, what I typically do is I want to go to the Paycheck site, the SBA site under Paycheck Protection Program. And so I'll constantly will refresh this just to see if there's anything new. So nothing new other than SBA is accepting applications right here. And that started yesterday there at 10:30 Eastern Time. So no new, all I did was, or what I wanted to show you is how I took the information off of the latest on the SBA side about how to calculate loans, and then the questions. And I wanted to show you where we put those on our basically our calculator. I know what we're going to be coming out soon now. So just so you know, you go to mycovidcpa.com. I know you've seen this many times, but I want to show you the information that we updated was on the first video that talks you how to go through. And since the loans have been throttled down, if you will, or being able to submit, that's allowing a few more days here of latecomers to the Paycheck Protection Program process. And so basically, if you read my first video, watch the first video here, go to the second one here and work through it's basically our estimated calculator here. And by no means, I just want to reiterate this process that we did on the calculator, which you will watch the video and then you can actually launch the calculator out of here and you come to the first page. This is for discussion only. In fact, actually what you're working on right now is just this first page, which is maximum loan amount. So if you choose to use it, you're only going to go into get detailed calculation. If you're an employer, which would be for an entity, which could also include self-employed with employees. But if you're an employer up here, or if you're a sole proprietor, you would basically click this box. Every one of the, just real quickly, all of the question marks have guidance, if you will, and then you can walk through all of the guidance that's showing for, and then if you, so I'm just gonna go ahead and enter in a sample of which I like to do is just at least enter sample, show you what it is. And what you're looking for is, this is the estimated annual payroll cost, which is further being defined. And you take that, that's divided by 12, and then you take it times 2.5, which matches the borrow application form. Now, anybody revisiting this has seen, so I'm going to show you a few things. Over here on the left is I'm doing these in chronological order. So right here is the how to calculate loan amounts. And this amount was, so you don't have to go searching for it, but this was the from the SBA that came out last Friday. And some of the, I know that I was helping in somebody, I'm self-employed with no employees. So this right here is actually for guidance for how you're determining your maximum loan amount, okay? So how you do it. So here it is, I'm self-employed with no employees. Here is self-employed and I have employees. How do you do that? One of the questions came up, compute your 2019 by adding the following 2019 IRS Form 1040 Schedule C. So now, if you have not yet filed, fill it out and compute the value. So I'm going to stop right here. So here it's saying right here, if you have not filed, because the IRS, the U.S. Treasury extended the filing day until July 15th. So there's really, we don't even have to have extensions at this point. But so for right now, there's really nothing to give to the SBA or to the lender to calculate your prior year 2019, other than, and here's the guidance that we have. And yesterday we talked about, what kind of authority. Right now, this is the guidance of how to calculate the maximum loan amount that the SBA is giving the lenders out there. So it says, this guidance is telling the lenders, if you have not yet filed a 2019 tax return, fill it out and compute the value. So what they're saying is basically fill out your Schedule C, form schedule. If you not have filed, fill it out. We're saying, is the Schedule C. So what we're encouraging people, customers to do is to go in and fill out a profit and loss, and then take that information, put on a Schedule C. Fill out a profit and loss on your normal accounting records, whether that's QuickBooks or however you keep that. But fill out your accounting records, which you should have, and force yourself to do, and then basically take that information and to put it on a Form 1040 Schedule C, okay? So that's the first part. In this case, it's self-employed and I have employees. The next that you need is your 2019 information as far as on your 941s. And here it's specifically saying line 5C, column 1, you should have filed all of those by now. And then you've got your 2 employer contributions for health insurance. And again, this is information that should be available through your profit and loss, okay? So in this situation, when you have not filed your Form 1040, buried in there is a Schedule C, and what we're looking for is the line 31 for the net profit. And again, you're taking that net profit on a Schedule C and you're adding the gross wages and tips. If you looked at just question 1 here, was what if I'm self-employed and I have no employees? All you're going to be doing is taking the 1040 Schedule C, okay? All right, so that directly came out of, on the front of our calculator, or front of our paycheck protection, this calculator that is an estimate of a maximum loan amount. And again, just like yesterday, it's going to be up to the lender to interpret what all of this guidance here. So I'm up to 13 documents that I feel, and not only starting with the law, with the Family First Coronavirus, but then all the come up to what even came out on Sunday. So then if you actually go into the Sunday, there was additional information here about different interpretation on the CARES Act. So what this was is borrowers and lenders may rely on guidance provided here, interpretation of the CARES Act, and the Paycheck Protection Program is in the CARES Act. So there's various, a lot of these are this guidance. You can see right now it goes all the way down to, I think we're up to, well, I think we're down up to well over 30 now, I think. Yeah, we're up to 36 now. And what happened, this is really a rolling document that as the SBA gets questions, they're basically coming in and updating this document as you go. So you can see some, is there existing guides to help applicants and lenders determine whether individuals employ principal place of business in the United States? So obviously there must have been a lot of applicants that had that. Here's one, does the cost of housing stipend or allowance provided to an employee as count towards the payroll cost? Yes. So what's happening now, they're up to 36. I'm going to have to guess, and you can see right here, questions down here as they're updated. So this documenting is living and breathing, and questions 32, 35, and questions 36. And why is that important? Because what the lenders are relying on, if you've already filed this, so there's a good chance that there are many applications that were in before, especially if you're watching this, many before April last Thursday, when they stopped when the funding of the first funding ran out. And so now that it's opened up again, which is started yesterday, when you originally submitted your borrower application, and which is basically when you originally submitted here the application form to the lender, which is an SBA approved, what is there is here's the borrow application form. You are filling out and what entity, but also you're filling out these lines: average monthly payroll times 2.5, whether you got an EIDL or not, and the number of employees. So for all of you that had your application in and now it's being considered of yesterday, today, you may have filled a lot of this out without the April 26th guidance or the April 24th guidance. So when it finally comes to pass, there may be questions right now that the lender's going to have and could call, could email. So the emails that you put, the contact information you put right here, you should be watching that daily. A lot of people are just watching it hourly to see if there's any communication back from the lender on additional possible documentation, further documentation, whether an E-Tran number has been received by the lender by going through the process. So if you haven't heard back at all by end of day, or not daily, just understand the lenders are going through this process right now. And if you have a great relationship with your lender, your banker, I would pick up the phone, give them a call and go, where are we? How are you doing? And how have you been impacted by the site slowing down the applications going back in? Okay, so there you go. And you might want to say, you might take the time and look ahead, because we're all going to have to be applying for the 8-week, complying to the 8-week period where we're calculating the average payroll cost as we do. And as hopefully by the end of this week, I'm going to have another system on how to actually keep track of that. So when you get the loan, here's exactly how you keep track of it in that 8 weeks. So for now, you may have entered in. You can actually go to mycovidcpa.com, jump on the site here, go down and go to the front, actually go to our calculator right here and pick up one of these documents, the latest ones right here. And if you submitted it before 4/26 or 4/24, open these up, see where you apply, and basically say, in case you get a question from your lender, or the amount that you put on your original Paycheck Protection Program application, if that low number is different from what you remember or submitted, or full-time employees, it's possible that the lender is following this recent guidance as opposed to what you submitted. So just realize, which document are you relying? Was it in the 24th or the 26th? And go take a look and see if you agree with that. In the end, the lender is basically the final say, but at least you can understand and do some due diligence. about how the final number, and especially, so let me reiterate, when you filled out your application and you initially submitted it, and especially if it was prior to last Friday and it's been in a holding pattern with your lender, go here to the borrow your application if you don't have a copy of it, and review what you actually, how you came up with average monthly payroll. Now you should have already done this, and you should have your records pretty clear, and then your number of, you can see your number of full-time equivalent employees. So again, you've got the 24th and the 26th of documents right here that have come out that are helping interpret what this average monthly payroll should have been with the new guidance. And it's, so your loan that eventually will be be communicated to you from the lender could be very different than what you filed. Okay, so that's a process of how to go. Just double check. Doesn't take that long, or fire it off to your CPA or bookkeeper or whoever's helping you. But basically say, you know, what is the difference between what I filed and that? Okay, so again, and then I went back to the other one I want to point out real quick is I went to the SBA site. There was the other $10,000 advance that people were looking at, and that was the $10,000 emergency injury disaster loan. That was way back on March 29th that you could have started applying. That's when SBA's site truly crashed, and then people were also entering it in up until a week before last Thursday. And this emergency answer, it's still not, you can look right here for notice and lapse. And so I would be able to jump in here, as you're able to see, they're unable to take applications at this point. So that means the only one we're focusing on right now is the Paycheck Protection Program, which is live. And at this point, two options for you. One is either you've already submitted and your lender has it, and it's just going through the process. The second thing is it's possible over the last 10 days you submitted it, didn't get your funding in round one, that application is sitting in queue to send off to the SBA, but there's some rules that possibly changed on your average monthly payroll. And the second thing that happened is they continued to start funding the EIDLs to $10,000. Let me explain that. So right now, if you did not, when you submitted this borrow application form and you did not have in your EIDL money that you may have received, for example, I received $1,000 a week from last Monday, but if I submitted my application, but I didn't have it in, and now you received it, when you finally hear from the bank, that $10,000 does impact your overall PPP loan. If you knew about it ahead of time, then you would have reported it here. If you didn't, it is outside, and you can use that for business purposes. You can use that money outside of what the PPP when you get funded here in the next at least few days, we're anticipating, depending on how tough the site is going to be. So I would say it's not too late. We've had some people submit and go through and grab the application here, watch the few videos and submit it in. Had a couple last night that we just did. So they are all in queue, and you're in company with I don't know how many there could be right now, but I'm estimating there's anywhere between 2 and 3 million applications of 5,000 lenders trying to submit through the system. All I can tell you is that you are not out. You're not, just if this program, you weren't able to, not all is not lost. That's all I can tell you. I want to jump real quick to the other program. When and even now that I'm going to repeat, you need to actually from February 15th forward, because you have to prove that you were in business, but from March 13th forward, in case the PPP does not go through in this funding, you then literally would revert, and especially if you have been paying employees or you're still making a go of it. And what I say by making a go of it, you are honestly going to make, you should be redoing and reinventing your business right now to make a go of this. And so you want to be clearly identified. If this PPP does not work for you, you want to start thinking ahead of, okay, I need to instantly be able to go to plan B, and plan B is on the credits, which I talked about earlier, where what this is for the first quarter, from March 13th to March 31st, you calculate the number of employees that qualify for this employer retention credit, and you instantly file, you fill this out, you calculate the number of employees that you had and paid from March 13th forward to March 31st, you check the box up here, and you fax it into this form. You fax it in right here. Then, so if you're turned down, you're officially turned down for the PPP, I would not wait, or at least really do a calculation, go, look, I'm in business. Things are starting to pick up over week, day over day for my business. I'm gonna basically take it as I got turned down, I missed it, and that is coming. So I'm already giving you plan B from the CARES Act. And from the CARES Act, there was this employer retention credit. That's why I have it third right here. Urgent start here, get your credit. And then the credits is you can't do both right now. We hope to get a lot of clarification, but you can't do both. So in the back of your mind, you ought to be going, and do I really have time? I'm just trying to get things done out there. That's why I'm doing this quick, half of the 30 minutes a day. And so that you can just listen to me, take a break, and what should I be thinking of? So thinking of right there is the $7,200 for your employee retention credit. I have had a restaurant in the Midwest, did the calculation, and the employer retention credits, because this, in fact, are opening today, but this individual who owns a restaurant is not only opening up, they've rehired people, and so they will need this PPP loan to pay the employees that they have brought back on to ramp up their third store today, or we will immediately start filling out the $7,200 if he gets turned down for employee. And again, these programs are for bringing back employees. It's employee retention. Okay, so we're already have every employee with these three restaurants in this case. We know exactly where they were working, whether they were paid, or whether any one of them are in any of the category, which is basically, we classified them all for categories 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we knew if any of the employees from March 13 forward were quarantined and how they were impacted from the from COVID-19. That makes a big difference here on the 7,200 form, because right here, total employee retention, this is what we're requesting, and that's up to 50% of the wages paid from March 13th, and you do it by quarter. That would have been for even though it says April, May, June, you'll do it. But then also it would be for every payroll, if you don't have a PPP loan, that you can actually do it right now for the month of April, May, and June. Actually, every payable you can request in advance here. Or another way to do it is you can reduce the payroll taxes, your ultimate payroll taxes that you pay in based on a monthly or semi-monthly depositor, whatever your however you are set up as an employer. Okay, now right here, the total qualified sick leave wages for the credit and paid this quarter, and family leave. Those are two calculations that are generated from knowing this employer credit summary of how you've categorized your employees. So again, thinking ahead is like, what else do I got to do? You got your loan in, or it's pending. But you can sure think ahead right now, and you're going to be at least jumping on this right now. I will instantly give you an update on the status from the first few minutes of where things are, and then as I do this every day, you should be thinking about the 7,200 for the credits, and then you also want to on unemployment. So you may have been waiting for employees right now. Maybe some you've already been paying, or some you haven't been paying. But basically, if you ought to have all of those employees. Let me back up. Have your plan together of what your business is going to look like when you reopen, which could be now, or really hiring once you get the loan and contacting everybody. So at this point, every employee that is either being paid by you, that you're going to get, that you're going to continue to pay, and at least the PP loan's going to step in there, or you're going to use the employer retention credit to basically subsidize. Some of your employees may have been on unemployment. And then, so an employee ethically can't take unemployment once you get the PPP loan and you bring them back. So one piece of little advice right here is also when you're working on your, when you're looking at all your employees over here and you're determining the categories, when you're 1 through 6, every one of them, to any of them, you ought to know whether they're on unemployment or not. That is very important, because if you have anybody that was on unemployment and got off, you need to time that exactly with documentation about how you, and get their unemployment information on when they were on and when you got the loan. So communication is key for any of your employees. That since February 15th is really, that's one of the questions on the paycheck, the PPP application, and what they've been doing since February 15th, primarily March 13th, because some of the programs here are available. Okay, so just to real quick, if you're catching this right at the trail end, the paycheck, it resumed. The PPP program by the SBA resumed yesterday. It's been throttled down such that you're not able to, the lenders aren't able to submit as fast. So basically what's happening is flow is going through an application being submitted to the SBA to get a number. In the meantime, what I've talked about is that on our site, you've been able to pull off some recent guidance of what your lender is possibly looking at on either April 26th or April 24th. And so if it's different when the bank or your lender reconnects with you, you might double check which guidance changed and why did my amount, because that amount that eventually is going to be funded. If it's different, that amount that's finally funded is the amount that you have to account for during the 8 weeks when you start looking for maximum forgiveness. And I will have a whole system together for you later this week about how that's going to happen. So that is all I've got for you today. I will tomorrow, as we get information, I'll bring up what the latest is, how many apps have gone through. We'll take a status. I would say it's not too late to go to My COVID CPA and actually fill out. We partnered with a company called Nimbus, and you can actually fill out the form. You can get a hold of me, which is several people did yesterday. I help them through the process, and you can submit your app and do a little praying that basically it gets in line. And with any luck at all, we can get all these through this week, and every app gets funded. A lot going on. So I appreciate you jumping in on your valuable time. Again, it's Tuesday, the 28th, and I will see you tomorrow on CPA Straight Talk for Small Business. Take care.